Good afternoon, everyone. Oh. You have one more minute if you would like to speak to him, sir. You want to do a handshake? We have extra chairs, too. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Britiana Kelly, and I'm the program manager for DISA, cyber training for Mantech. I'm honored to introduce the panel that is located to the left of me with our moderator, who is Captain Stevens, who will do their introduction as well. All right. On this panel today, we're going to be discussing agencies' integrated defensive concepts that blends various 24/7, 365 capabilities into a comprehensive defensive capability for the Department of Defense Information Networks. Okay. Please welcome me and joining Mr. Captain Ralph Stevens, who has been serving in the Navy since August of 1990 and has served in various roles, both at sea and ashore. He has earned his commissions through the Limited Duty Officers Program in 2002. His sea assignments include tours on the USS Blue Ridge, the USS Miss Kitty Hawk, the USS George Washington, among others. I will say that he has many awards to include the Defense Martyrs Service Medal, as well as the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, among others. So please welcome me, Mr. Steven, and his panel of gentlemen right here to the left. Awesome. Thank you.
Everybody ready for the main event? Thank you for staying late. I know it's 1600, but thank you for staying. I think this is the last show for the day. Also, I want to thank FCA for hosting us again down here in Baltimore. But I'll dig in a little bit and get to these gentlemen in a minute, but I want to set the scene a little bit. So if you heard Miss Arrington earlier, she's talking about working in a dynamic environment. And if anybody knows anything about Navy, we're pretty damn good at surface, sea space, airspace, because we do have aircraft. I know the Air Force rule when it comes to air domain, but we have that too, and we have subsea, submariners out there. So we understand that environment very well. But when I got orders to DISA as the J3, cyber domain is very complex. And one of my thoughts coming into the job is how do I defend it? And then how do I maintain it in an environment where the boss can maneuver and keep the C2 information flowing so the commanders can make decisions timely so we can beat our adversary. So that's something that keeps me up at night, being a J3 and now as a J357 deputy, because it is very complex and it does take a lot of industry, you folks, to help us manage that, because we got to get quicker. Our adversaries are just as fast, and if we ever assume, that's when we're going to get caught flat-footed. So there is a partnership that we do desire and want and need. And I'll go back to the World War II with our environment of building capacity. It wasn't us building ships. It wasn't us building tanks. It was the men and women back home in the same uniform, civilian clothes that you wear today. And now we're in this domain, we need that same effort and at lightning speed, because our enemy is just as fast and agile, and sometimes, I will say it out loud, even sometimes better than us, to be frank. And that's scary. So I don't want to ever get caught flat-footed with the boss, Mr. Argo, and my boss, General Stanton, that we have been compromised or that our domain has not been able to maneuver as quick as we need to defeat our adversaries. So I'll get back into the summary. So this session will describe the agency's integrated defense concept that blend various 24/7 capabilities into a comprehensive defensive capability for the Department of Defense Information Network. Everybody knows we have the third largest network. Again, complex. It's not like a carrier, which I would argue a carrier is complex. Been on several, but this dwarfs a carrier in the ability for me to put my hands up around it on a daily basis, because it's changing, very dynamic, and it's changing to meet the demands of what our bosses need, higher ups, and as well as making sure we're defended against the adversary. So with that said, I will introduce some of our panels. Mr. Daryl Fountain, please talk a little bit about yourself, sir.
Okay, my name's Daryl Fountain. I'm the Chief of CSSP Services for the agency. I've been doing this for too many years. We have 580 mission partners spread around the globe and monitor those chiefly through 5 main network operations centers and a handful of smaller centers. So we manage that team. I would say, in contrast to perhaps my colleague here to the left, I'm the over-the-horizon guy because I'm the program dude. I'm worried about beans, bullets, and funding for the longer term. So I work hard to ensure that Dave has the resources he needs to do the job. Again, global mission, all different environments from different classification levels to on-prem, off-prem, in various JWCC, Joint Warfighting Cloud Capability mission partners.
Thank you, sir. Mr. David McCarthy.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave McCarthy. I'm the Defensive Cyber Operations Chief at DISA. I've been in this position about 3 years. Before that, I was a clear defense contractor. So,
Yes, sir. Thank you. And Chief Warrant Officer Millsap.
He struggled a little bit because he's Navy and they call him warrants, right? Not chiefs.
Yeah, it's almost slipped.
I'm Chief Warrant Officer for Millsap. I've been at DISA for about 5 years, working in the J357 and the variants through reorgs and so forth of operations. My background is as a cyber defender from a brigade combat team through a cyber protection team, and then now at the enterprise level. I've seen a lot of things, done a lot of things, and hopefully that's beneficial for us now. I'm happy to be here today. Oh, and yeah.
All right, thank you. So, again, I'll put my hands wrapped around this environment. So some of the things I think of, and we'll get to some questions in a minute, but the challenges and how do we defend it, our assets, our terrain, how do we incorporate the various technology that's available to us to use. Also, how do we, and this is for you guys, the industry, how do we get industry to help us to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to get after our concerns, like false positives when we think we've been targeted, for example? We spend too much energy chasing down false positives when we need some type of solution that we can get faster and better and really know what the adversary is trying to do. So if artificial intelligence, machine learning, if we can incorporate that into our ability to speed things up faster. Boundary represents how we defend a DISN from malicious actors. We detect using network security tools, supporting over 3 million DISN users, 3 million DISN users, and need capability that supports our analysts, prevents alert fatigue, and prioritizes threats based on the reality of the department's landscape. So the landscape, again, 3 million, a lot of complexities there. Sea space, I'm in a box in the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. The boss tells me, Ralph, stay in this box. I keep my ship in this box. That's not how we operate in the cyber domain. Very complex environment, and if we can speed up these abilities to figure out where our enemies want to attack us or actually there by using artificial intelligence, machine learning, that is a tool, that's a capability that we desire. So midpoint, when we continue to have fleet of network sensors at key points inside our architecture, are there solutions that use AI ML to better detect lateral movement from our advanced persistent threats within the and between enclaves? Again, I need that sped up into an environment where we can make better decision making so our bosses can be well informed on what we plan to do with the network and how we want to maneuver the network. Endpoint. This is leaning forward to leverage Microsoft Defender for endpoint to defend our CSSP mission partners. How can we leverage that data to improve our defenses at our boundary mission? What tools could support turning an endpoint detection into a boundary protection? So we'll get in some questions here. These guys are way smarter in defense than I am, and we'll get after this. So, Chief Millsap, you're up first.
Okay.
Let's talk about effective management of data. How can we do that better?
All right. So, as we talk about, first of all, I want you to remember something with me. We're going to go back to World War II as well, another Navy story, and that's of the kamikaze. So we'll come back to that, but I want you to think about what you know about kamikazes, okay? End-to-end management for data involves me getting from and effectively managing it is figuring out where to get the data at the right time to make the right decision. It's not an IT function. It's a leadership function. It's a leadership support function. So oftentimes, and my favorite people in the world are engineers and technicians who make things sing on my network and on my systems, but that's not our end state. Our end state is to make decisions. So managing that data is important in the respect to decisions. So there's some data that may be important, but it's not important to a decision at the time. So we've got to learn some flexibility. Right now, for us, we're doing a lot of things with automation. We're using some Zeek logs and doing some Zeek analysis at our IAPs. We're correlating network monitoring and DCO indicators through network integrators like SOAR, and then we're using cloud-based security playbooks, things like that, to help us fight the fight. A while back, and some of you may remember this, some of you may not, we started a program called Fight by Indicator, in which we pulled data elements out of data to identify indicators of compromise. There we go. And that improved our ability to pull that out and not wait for a manual feed. Oftentimes we wait for, CISA. We wait for, I've had team members that, hey, the NSA will give us IOCs. We do not have the skill set, nor can we retain the skill set to pull mature IOCs out of data, nor do we have the time to do that. The responsiveness we need lies in automating the ability to identify key elements of information, pulling those out, creating the right type of defensive structure. It's not just about rules and signatures, but the ability to identify problems on a very dynamic basis in order to make decisions. Okay.
Okay. Again, very complex. In my mind, as J3, working at J357, speed is what we need to, I think, ensure we impose costs on our adversaries by making them do things that we want them, predict that what we want them be predicted, be able to predict their TTPs and how they're going to get after what we think the terrain they're targeting before we know they're already there. I see it, the environment, again, I'll use, because I'm a Navy surface on the high seas, it's very predictive. I got small ships out there running picket, tell me where the subs are, tell me where the aircraft are, and we can all integrate that into a common picture where the boss can make decisions on split-second notice. And in this environment, I think we're a little bit too slow on making well-informed decisions and feeding that up to the boss so he can make it even a better decision than what we're seeing. Going back to speed, getting all that information, digesting it, and being able to make a great decision based on everything that's coming in. But it's currently in this too slow an environment.
Yeah. And sir, one final note. Back to the kamikaze. One of the challenges for us, and we go back to my best friends, my IT guys, my defenders, we habitually rely on you, commercial partners, to deliver IT services, to deliver effects. and we traditionally do that in a peacetime environment. We've not been challenged in a conflict or wartime environment. So if we go back to the kamikaze story, when the kamikazes in World War II attacked the U.S. fleets in the Pacific, it wasn't orderly. Our fleets were organized in battle groups. Ships sailed in certain positions related to other ships. When the kamikazes hit, it was fend for yourself. Survive any way you can, right? I'm making turns to avoid aggression. When we, as a DoD and as a country, enter conflict, it's not going to be orderly. And we spend a lot of time, and this may be a little bit of personal opinion here, we spend a lot of time ordering our data, but we're not training to deal with disorderly data. Maybe the fact that we haven't ordered our data yet helps us. But we haven't really trained to maintain mission decision-making ability in a very, very dynamic and disorderly environment. That's the kamikaze story.
Roger. Thanks, Chief. We'll move on to Mr. McCarthy. This piece here interests me a lot because hunt missions, if you're in the military, we all enjoy hunt missions. That's what we do. But Mr. McCarthy's appetite of doing what he does and specializes in really intrigues me, and I'll kick it off to him on discussing how does DISA synchronize enterprise hunt efforts?
Well, thanks, sir. So, again, Dave McCarthy, I'm the DCO chief, and the mission of my group is to direct, coordinate, and synchronize both protection and defensive cyber operations of DoD Area of Operation, DISA. Before I start on the hunt, though, I agree with everything Chief said, but I want to point out it's not all doom and gloom, and we do have bright spots where we are moving at speed. One of our most effective areas is where we do reputation score blocking, and that is mainly machine learning, I think, and it all happens automatically based on how we tune our defensive capabilities, our appliances, and that is, I think, a very bright area. And we do that by partnering with our industry partner, and we're seeing a lot of success in that. Now, we can afford to implement similar things throughout the DISN, but that is a bright spot. But I do concur with everything he said. I just want to put
My
a little
role is to be the
sunshine on
grumpy
it.
old guy, not the...
So now to hunts. So we do a lot in the defensive cyber operations branch, but we hunt. DCO hunts are one of our highlights. We do mainly two kinds of hunts. We do IOC focused hunts, which are mainly reactive to some specific intelligence or event that happened in the DISN or happened in some area of interest outside of the DISN. Does everybody know what I mean when I say DISN? This is primary area of responsibility. And that will drive us to produce cyber protection guides, hunt guides, and the audience or the actors that do those kinds of hunts are normally the systems owners, the system administrators, and the ISSMs. And then we'll go through their kind of basic blocking and tackling, they're compliance driven, but they come to great event. We've had outcomes with those kinds of hunts where we've updated the STIGs multiple times and things like that. But like I say, IOC hunting is generally reactive in nature and considered basic blocking, tackling, and easily defeated against an advanced adversary. So what the captain's asking about is a proactive hunt that we do called enterprise hunts. And that's where we coordinate and synchronize our hunt activities from Tier 0, which is our capability just outside of the DISN, all the way down. So Tier 1 would be our peering points with the internet, Tier 2 is our enclave, and Tier 3 is all the way down to the desktop. We coordinate and synchronize multiple hunt teams across DISA. The primary force, hunt force, is our CSSP actors. defenders, but we also bring in our tier 3 defenders who defend against the endpoints both on the network and in our hosting and compute cloud environments. So it's a very complex activity. It's data-driven, to Chief's point, and it's intel-informed. We generally pick a cyber malicious actor. We present a specific APT to our J357, and then he picks our target. I'm just going to hit the wave tops. We do a specific strategic threat estimate against that actor. This is why this is like a PhD level and not like an IOC hunt. And we decompose what those actors are all about. Then during that analysis that we do at the headquarters, we we understand the capability of each of our hunt teams. So we assign specific attributes of that adversary that we want each hunt team to look for. They can do more, but they can't do less. And we do this through the military orders process. And then they have a period of time to conduct their own mission analysis. We have briefbacks, and then they do an intel-driven analytic hunt across all of our data, to include our customer data if it's available. And then we wrap up our hunt, our execution phase, and we do lessons learned. So I know that's normally like a 3 or 4 month process that I just condensed to 3 or 4 minutes. But I'll leave it there unless there's any questions for me on how we do that.
So again, I find that very intriguing. His team's very well equipped, very educated, but from a J3 perspective, impose cost to the enemy. Predict how the enemy is going to respond or how they are acting. So when we do, unfortunately, go to war or do something like that, we already have an understanding of the terrain or what their TTPs will be, so we can react to that or be already proactive and not reactive in that environment.
Well, I would like to add onto your comment there that the benefits of what we do go far beyond just DISA's networks. Because of our visibility, we can see much broader than just DISA. Our findings are often outside of DISA. We let our partners know. And then anyone that consumes a DISA service benefits from it, right? Like, because we're hunting on these networks for the services that our customers provide. So it's a benefit that's probably unbeknownst to most customers, that we are, again, proactively searching. So with a modern defensive mindset, right, you assume that your analytics and your defenses are not working. So when we do our mission analysis, they're not allowed to say, "Oh, we already got an analytic that detects that." No, our assumption is it doesn't detect that. So you either have to come up with a new analytic to find that behavior, or you have to modify the existing. If you're on a hunt team, then you have to, and then your new analytic is peer reviewed by someone in our cyber analytic users group, and that's how we do that. But it's a benefit far, in my opinion, to those people that are attached to the backbone, the DoD backbone that we provide, and that consume any of our services.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So next one is Mr. Fountain, endpoint detection and response deployment. Mr. Fountain, can you describe why DISA transitioned to EDR solution?
Sure. But I'm going to go back farther than Mr. Millsap. Okay. Because he only went back to World War II. I'm going to go back into time farther than that. I want you to think about 1933. Deepest, darkest depths of the Depression. Things are not looking good. And there was a guy named Willie Sutton. Now, Willie Sutton was just caught for the third time robbing banks. And the G-men had him. They had him down, they had him at the table, and they were shining lights over his head. You know, it's like all the movies. And they were cranking down there, and they said, Willie, why do you rob banks? And what did Willie respond with? Because that's where the money is. So the unfortunate thing is, I found myself in a similar situation. I'm doing this CSSP stuff. I'm supporting people all over the globe. Dr. Stanton. General Stanton comes in, puts me in a hot seat, shines a light down on my head, gets all those SESs all around me, says, Daryl, what are you doing? What are we going to do to better service? And I say, hey, sir, we're going to go where the data is. We're going to go to the endpoint through a great bit of luck. The DoD CIO bought E5 licenses for the department, and that gives us the ability to use Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, so we can go where that super rich data is on those endpoints. And why are we driven there? Because a lot of things go on in the network layer, which is the traditional sweet spot for the agency, the network. Bad guys go on the internet, get strong, ubiquitous, inexpensive encryption. It makes it hard to do things at the network layer. Doesn't make it impossible, because the agency does a lot of great things at the network layer, but it makes it hard. But if you get on the endpoint, inside that encryption, you can see what's going on. You can see processes. Maybe somebody's started up PowerShell where it shouldn't be started up. You can see services running that maybe ought not be running. You can see connections that are being made. Super rich pile of data there that really helps us. So with the department's help, we've transitioned to make endpoint monitoring through a Microsoft Defender for Endpoint and Microsoft Defender for Servers as a key enabler for CSSP services we provide to our 580 mission partners, in the cloud or out. So that took the heat off just a tad bit. General Stan gave me like 3 days to bask in the glory, and then came back with the thumb screws again. Said, hey, what are you doing to get after that? So we're looking at trying to add some artificial intelligence capabilities through the Microsoft suite of capabilities. There's some AI, AML sprinkled on top of there, like every good contractor does. They sprinkle some on top. Makes it taste way better and work way better, just like that. And so one of the things we really need is to use artificial intelligence to do just like what Ms. Arrington said earlier today, if you're listening to her talk. She talked about empower. I don't need black box AI to replace my analysts. We got plenty of work to do. What I do need to do is to empower them to work on the hard stuff, to make every one of those analysts better at what they do. And through the Defender suite of capabilities, chiefly drawn data out of the endpoint, that's what we're doing here at the agency. And we're working with all of our partners, and when Dave goes out on one of his high-octane, super effective enterprise hunts, I've now added a whole bevy of new data to that picture that he can use. And while his guys were whining about they couldn't see what was going on, now we've added a whole bunch more stuff for them to look at. And because we've added a whole bunch more stuff, I need that AI to help me weave my way through it, because it's a pile of stuff. And we have to use the data management techniques that Chief talked about to winnow that down. Because while every good analyst likes every data point known to mankind right at their fingertips all the time, that's probably not something the agency is capable of doing. Because we can do a lot, but all data everywhere all the time, it's a little bit of a problem. When you talk in terms of absolutes, you got issues. So we manage that data through work, and Dave and his super warriors go out and do their DCO thing. When they come back with all the good analytics that they've developed through this analytic schema maneuver, we take that and we throw it into a cyber analytic user group. And that cyber analytic user group, all the Jedi Knights get together, they throw chicken bones down the table and they read them a couple times and they decide, hey, this analytics probably better than all the rest. Let's use that one. Let's get rid of these other three. They were good, but they're not as good. So by managing the data better and adding a big pile to it, MD, we think, has turbocharged the agency's ability to provide security services and really put our analysts in a position to do the best they can for the 580 plus mission partners we have spread around the globe. So we're doing that for the DISN and the core that the agency defends, but we're also doing it for those mission partners all around the globe. And it allows us to be really participative with those mission partners, kind of drives us in that direction. And we find that that's where the money is as well. We need a collaborative effort because adversary is good at what he does. He can choose the time and place. The defender's advantage is knowing your terrain and bringing everybody together in a synchronized fashion to take on that adversary. MDE is a participative partnering effort with our mission partners because they do the group policy and they help work with setting up some of the GPOs, and then we work together to do there. And there's great goodness in that. Forces our team, our CSSP team, to be more on top of their game, to understand what's going on in all those mission partner environments. 580 of them is a bunch, and helps us to leverage what they bring to the table in a collaborative, synchronized fashion. So moving to MDE and making that a centerpiece of what we do is a no-brainer, and we're already garnering the benefits from that.
Thank you, sir. So, data-driven, how can we digest that and get it faster down to the analyst to make a good decision for us to either maneuver the network, allow the boss to make a decision on should we sever some part of the network based on whatever we're seeing. So going back to artificial intelligence, machine learning, anything that can help us drive that down, that timeline down, instead of wasting enormous amount of man hours trying to figure out that golden, that one piece that we're missing, would be highly usable for us in our world. So going back to some of the examples, we've always relied on industry to help us win wars, and this environment is no different. While the Navy will ask you to build carriers, we're going to ask you to help us figure out tools that we can better use quicker. Our analysts can get after the actual adversary instead of nugging through huge mounds of data that ends up providing nothing, in the end, nothing noteworthy for us to even vector in on. So that's what I would look at industry to help us with in some respects, but there's obviously a million things that we need in DoD, but I'll leave it at that. Would you guys like to comment on anything else before I kick it off to the floor for questions?
Well, you brought up artificial intelligence. I would say that some of the things that we need there that I would offer to industry are we need self-service analytics and frictionless prompting. And what I mean by that is we don't need like artificial intelligence tools. We need AI built into our tools so that in our SIM or SIEM, we've got how Copilot is integrated into Microsoft products. We need that kind of integration for DCO built into our products, our TIPs, our SIEMs, our orchestrators, things like that. And then, of course, we've got to train up our analysts to take advantage of the artificial intelligence capability in order to so they need prompt engineering skills, right? They got to ask the right questions and get the correct answers and understand what they're getting. And the chief's point about we need a governed data architecture. We don't want to have data leakage, and we need the governance in place so that the user context, the data is appropriate for the user asking the question, right? So depending on your role, if you're a DCO, real-time analyst, it's much different than if you're a user activity monitoring. And the answers you get back from that artificial intelligence will probably be significantly different. That'd be my 2 cents worth on that one.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Ooh. So again, we got to manage this humongous pile of data I just created with my new tool. Humongous. Bunches of data. And I'm going to, unlike Dave, whose glass is always half full, my glass is always half empty. It's always half empty. So while MDE is a great thing, and it's moving to the endpoints, kind of hooah, because I'm an Army guy, it creates a management challenge. You gotta management all that stuff. And I am a believer in SIEMs have been around a long time. They've been using that technology for quite a while. And you can pick a vendor, Coke, Pepsi, but as General Stan said, you want to know what that big pile of data is and what questions you're going to ask that data, and then manage that to success. Where we need help is managing that data to success. Going through it, some of it's going to be right here, right now. Some of it's going to be tomorrow. Some of it's going to be 6 months from now. I'm going to need to look back and see what's going on for some sort of attack. I don't know that question. I know some of my questions, but I don't know them all. I need help to manage that so that when I need the right data for my investigators, it's there and I can pull it and do an effective investigation. And that's part of enabling the superpowers of my analysts. Give them the raw materials, they're going to do crazy. I was about to use some of my favorite lexicon from 33 years in the Army, but I've suppressed that. They're going to do creative things that we never thought about, armed with the right data. What I have to do is arm them with the right data in a way they can get at it, and they're going to solve problems I never thought of if we empower them. So that's why I need help with industry to help me manage that, to empower those analysts to get where they need to go when they need to go there.
All right, Roger.
And Daryl, I would say that we need to get that data to the analyst more quickly, more responsive. Most of us in the environment have dealt with incident response, and we know that when a vulnerability is made publicly available or published, our adversaries have a proof of concept within 48 hours. And to pivot off of Daryl's comment about getting it to the analysts, as we look at SIEMs and the variety of SIEMs, we're not going to get to a single SIEM anytime soon. We would love that, but the reality is we're going to use our favorite Elastic, Splunk, or whatever, ... right? We're going to build our own. We're going to use it at different classifications. But the extract, transform, and load functions, the ETL functions, it's critical that we apply our AI and ML technology and understanding in that environment. We are now entering a phase where, the United States doesn't do anything on its own anymore. We're working with some multinational partner or consortium, and in the Pacific, it's very ill-defined. We don't have a NATO in the Pacific where we have unified standards. We have to figure those things out. Things like AI and ML that can translate Python to PowerShell in a matter of seconds, things like that are critical in getting our data in the right place available to the analysts. Standard practices anywhere from days to weeks to transform data and made it available to the analysts. We've got to reduce that to hours to days. And we can do that through AI and ML, and we can do it, I can go to ChatGPT, write a PowerShell script, throw it in ChatGPT and get my Python out of it. But how do we do that so that so that it's automated. When my system recognizes it's Python and it should be PowerShell, how do I automatically make that responsive and make that change, make the right code, and deliver it? Critical pieces for us to act quickly and decisively in our environment.
Roger. Thank you, Chief. Okay, so kick it off to you guys. Anybody got any questions they would like to ask? Come on up, ma'am.
Sir, what are some of the opportunities you're seeing this EDR environment versus traditional IDS techniques?
Again, the endpoint is chock full of data that you never had before. So it allows you to see, again, processes spawned, connections made, and all that data allows the analyst to have a degree of situational awareness that he's not had before. So as he's looking for crazy new living off the land type stuff, normal becomes harder and harder to see at the network layer. But if you're inside the laptop, you're following those transitions, then you can see when something crazy happens. When a program gets started up in a temporary directory, that kind of stuff shouldn't happen. You can't readily see that so much at the network layer, but you can see it if you're living on the endpoint. So you got to be there. To do that. Just like Willie, you got to go where the money is, and the money's on the endpoint for me right now. Ma'am.
Just a quick question. I'm Virginia from Proofpoint, and I just wanted to find out, it's probably written out there, public information, but is there a timeline for rolling out MDE into the 580 mission partners and things like that? Like, is it going to be the next couple months or the next 5 years? Because we have technologies that will, offer additional threat intelligence, indicators of compromise on that ride and partner with Microsoft. So I was just curious if you were going to publicize that or had that information.
No, ma'am, I do not have that information.
So ma'am, DISA is not the executive agents for mission partner environments, and so those timelines are dependent on that executive agent, which is the Air Force. We are working closely with Microsoft to develop the right capabilities to meet the challenge of not only deploying data to mission partner environments, but to be able to share that with mission partners, at a REL level, because none of that data is unclassified per se, right? And so we've got to deal with classification issues, and Microsoft has accepted the challenge, and we're supporting the Air Force in that effort, but we don't have a timeline yet.
Oh no.
Dan Reese, Lockheed Martin. Krebs on Security, the latter part of last year, released a story that identified that if organizations had more than 5 cybersecurity tools or capabilities, that they were more at risk for an incident or intrusion. So with regards to this conversation, is this factoring into any of the decisions or the ways that you're either handling data, or that you are doing hunts, or that you are implementing MDE at DISA to reduce the number of cybersecurity capabilities?
So as we're transitioning, remember the agency's going to keep a whole bunch of stuff in their kit bag because our environments are so varied and kind of all over the globe. But as we're transitioning to make MDE the centerpiece of our CSSP service, we used to have sensors at the internet access points. We had some sensors at Thunderdome. We had a sensor at the Mission Partners Enclave boundary. And we thought, that's a lot of redundant sensors. So as we move down to MD, that one IDS that's sitting at the Mission Partners boundary is going to go away. And we had to argue a whole bunch with policymakers over that. But we're going to take one of those layers away where we had a intrusion detection system that essentially was redundant to others in the network, and put that aside where we can. Again, network mission partners are all kind of different, and then implement MD in lieu of that because of the rich environment that it creates. So that we are going to make some adjustments to to the DCO framework as we do that to simplify a little bit.
You got anything to add, Mr. McCarthy? You good?
No, not this time.
Roger. All right, anybody else have any questions out in the audience? Okay, I'll wrap it up then. I want to say thanks to all you guys who stuck around for this 1600 to 1700 event. Thank you for giving us your time. I know you got other things to do. And Mr. Fountain, Mr. McCarthy, and Chief Millsap, thank you for being part of this panel and giving us some great information on what you see out there. So appreciate it.
Thank you.